In this RoutBot CNC application video, we will see how to set the velocities for your CNC machine. To set the velocity, we go to Setting and we select Velocities. Now, all the velocities for your CNC machine can be set in this panel. But if you want, you can also load the based on the material, plastic, wood, metal, machine tuning, which include velocities and acceleration for this particular material. Because the philosophy of RoutBot CNC is that in reality, we are not bound by your CNC. You're bound by the material because it is what you machine that will dictate what are the best velocities and acceleration. Based on several experiment testing that have been done, these basic velocities and acceleration for different types of material have been set. Now, also you can fine-tune this material, these velocities and acceleration in this panel to better suit the exact need of the material that you are actually machining. So in this panel, you can set the velocity for routing, which is the routing velocity is when the velocity that is actually used when the CNC machine is actually machining the parameter, machining the part. Now, the moving velocity is the velocity that is used when you're going from one location to the next, but you're not actually machining. And the homing velocity is the velocity that is used when you're going back and when you're actually making a homing sequence. Now, as I said, all these velocities, the best way to set them is to simply select the material that you will want to machine. And then based on many testing that have been done, there will be very good first guess of what the velocities and acceleration should be for example, for plastic, wood, and metal. And after that, you can fine-tune to get better result. Now, as far as your CNC machine is concerned, the only real parameters for your CNC is what is your CNC capable of achieving in terms of velocities. And this is where you need to look at your CNC specification and see what are the maximum or top velocities that your CNC can actually achieve. So we're doing it in two ways. The first method is we select the velocities and acceleration based on the material that we want to machine. And this is the starting point. Then we can fine-tune them after. And the second thing we're doing, we're actually entering the maximum capabilities or top velocities of your CNC machine. And we do that in the last tab where you see top velocity. Now, these velocities over here are the maximum velocities that your CNC, according to the manufacturer or according to your own experience, is capable of achieving. So this is a very important parameters. And this is really the only parameter that is really function of your CNC machine. So RoutBot CNC will basically use all of these parameters and will find out what is the best velocities for machining the part that you're making. One more point of interest is that if your G code has defined some feed rate, the feed rate defined in your G code have precedent over what you have defined in this panel. But if there are no feed rate defined in your G code, whatever velocities defined in this panel is what will be used to machine your part. But the top velocities, no matter what you have defined in the G code, the CNC will never exceed the top velocity, because as I said, the top velocity is a function of your CNC machine. So this is really the only parameters that you really need to configure at start, at least, is to enter the proper top velocities that your CNC can achieve, so that your CNC doesn't lose step, so on and so forth. As long as you enter these parameters there, and it's only 4 parameters, 1 for each axis, then you can simply you can simply use the default for the material that you're machining as a starting point, and as you go along, you can fine-tune the default value to get better result. One more point of interest: when you are actually loading a tuning parameters, for example, for plastic, wood, and metal, only the routing, moving, only the routing and moving and ohming velocities will be basically affected. The top velocities, which is a function of your CNC machine, is not affected. So you could set a fixed top velocities for your particular CNC machine, and then you can load different parameter file for plastic, wood, and metal. And what's gonna happen? The velocities for routing, moving, and ohming will change based on the material that you have loaded, but it will not affect your top velocities. Now, obviously, in this case, we can change some of these parameters, and we can see as we're changing some of these parameters, the config in the CNC become old. So what we need to do is, after we change the parameters to what we want, we need to apply those velocities to the controllers. And now everything that we have in here is actually in the controller, in the CNC controller.